In this video, we are going to learn how to find equation of square root functions from the given table. This is the standard form of square root function. Here HK represent the starting point, A represent the vertical stretch and B represent the horizontal stretch. First we need to find the starting point HK. Let's see how we find the starting point from the given table. For that, we find the difference in x values. We find the difference in consecutive x values of this table. The difference between -4 and -3 is 1. The difference between -3 and 0 is 3. The difference between these two values is +5 and difference between these are 7. Next, we find the difference in y values as well. The difference between -7 and -6 is 1. Difference between -6 and -5 is 1. This is again 1. Before moving further, we need to observe the table of a parent square root function. This is the table of a parent square root function. The difference in x values is 1, 3, 5. They are always odd numbers starting from 1. And when the difference in x value is 1, that gives you the starting point. So here this is the starting point of a basic square root function. And the difference between y values is always a constant. For the basic parent function, it's a +1. But for any other function, you can get any other constant. For our problem, we got the differences in x values and y values same as the basic square root function. That means there is no horizontal stretch. The x differences are same. The odd numbers starting from 1, 1, 3, 5, 7 and they keep on going like that. The differences in y value is again a constant every time. It's a constant 1. That means there is no vertical stretch. Or you can say the A value is 1. Basically, when the vertical and horizontal stretches are 1, that doesn't have any effect on the graph. And let us look at the starting point. When the difference in x values is 1, that gives you the starting point. So here the difference is 1. So this gives you the starting point, -4 and -7. So we got the starting point as -4 and -7. Next we plug in the values of a, b, h and k into the standard form and we get the answer as -4. So this is the equation of square root function for this given table. While finding the square root equations from the given table, you may or may not find the starting point in the table. So let's work on this problem where the starting point is not given in the table. We have to find it. So we start with the same steps. We find the differences in x values. Here the difference is 3. Here the difference is 5. It's 7. Then we write the differences in y values. It's 2. Now we observe that the x differences are not starting from 1. They should start from 1. That means it's not the starting point given in the table. Here the starting point would lie before this point when the difference is 1. To get the starting point, we subtract 1 from 0. We get -1 and subtract 2 from 5. Since there is a constant difference of 2 in y values, so the y value corresponding to -1 would be 5 minus 2, which is 3. So to get the starting point, we subtract the x value by 1 and subtract the y value by 2. This gives us the starting point. Now you can see that while going from -1 to 0, there is a difference of 1. So this completes the basic table. We observe that the difference in y values is always a constant 2. That means the vertical stretch is 2. Now look at the difference in x values. It's just the basic odd number starting from 1, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and so on. That means there is no horizontal stretch, or we can say the b value is just 1. So here we got the starting point hk as -1 and 3. The a value as 2, vertical stretch is 2, the b value is 1, there is no horizontal stretch. Now we plug in the values of a, b, h and k into the standard square root function. So this is the square root equation for this given table. Now we are going to work on another problem where there is a horizontal stretch, vertical stretch, and the reflection as well. So we start finding the differences in x values and y values. Here the difference between 3 and 1 is then the difference in y value is every time the difference in y value is -2. It's a constant. Here we observe that the x differences are not the basic odd numbers starting from 1, but they are the multiples of 2. Rather, they are the multiples of -2. We can write them as -2 times 1, -2 times 3, -2 times 5, and -2 times 7. And we can observe that these are the odd numbers. Since these are the multiples of -2, that means there is a horizontal stretch of 2 and reflection as well. Now look at the y differences. Again, these values are the multiples of -2. That means there is a vertical stretch of 2 with a negative sign. This negative sign represents the reflection across x-axis. So we can write a equals -2 and b equals -2. After rewriting the x differences as multiples, we observe that the starting point is this one because the odd numbers start from here 1, 3, 5, 7. So this gives us the starting point as 3 and 5. We got the hk. Now we plug in these values into the standard square root function. And this is the square root equation for the given table when there was horizontal stretch as well as the vertical stretch. I hope you all have understood the process. Now try working on this practice problem and write the answers in comment box. Thank you.